Welcome to another episode of The Weighing Room, where as ever, I'm joined by my usual cohorts of Frankie Foster and Paul Callaghan to go through Saturday's racing on ITV from Ascot, Lingfield and Haydock, with the Oaks and Derby trials in full flow. Frankie, the weather hasn't been too kind to you this week, as the first 2 days of Chester recording Friday morning. But been some good racing, hasn't there?
Yeah, really good racing. I always like the May Festival at Chester. It's hard work trying to find winners with all of the draw bias and the muddle of Chester, but it has been good, and we have seen some really impressive winners as well. Save the Last Dance, probably the one that stands out en route to the Oaks. Everyone was really impressed with her. I know it wasn't the strongest field, but she still went and won by 22 lengths easily, and Ryan Moore seemed very pleased with her as well, which you don't always get overly positive comment from him. So yeah, Save the Last Dance, impressive with the week, and yeah, it's been good fun at Chester. I always like being here.
Yeah, the Chester Bay meeting's a great meeting, but you do get it with the weather sometimes. You don't know what's going to happen with the showers.
Yeah.
Like we're recording Friday morning, hopefully it's better for you today on the last day. Paul, bit of flat, bit of jumps this week. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's competitive. It doesn't get any easier, James, that's for sure. But yeah, looking forward to it now. We've got a competitive card at Lingfield. We've got a couple of good races at Ascot to throw in for good measure. Ground at the minute is quite testing, so that'll be interesting enough. And of course, we've got a mixed card for viewers at Haydock. So yeah, bit for everyone this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit for everyone. And we'll just mention at the top of the show that when we're going through the Lingfields, we're going through on Friday morning. It's a bit strange this week, isn't it? With Lingfield obviously being moved to the all-weather due to the weather. So for some races, we don't have prices at the moment. So he's from pretty much an anti-post point of view, even though normally the decks would be out. So that's just that disclaimer, but we'll do our best to still try and find the winners at Lingfield. Anyway, we're going to start at Ascot this week in the 1:30, and it's the handicap over 1 mile, 4 furlongs. And Frankie, it's not the easiest race in the world to start because obviously, like Paul mentioned, the ground conditions at Ascot at the moment are currently soft, heavy in places. So it's going to be really testing Ascot this weekend.
Yeah, it is. And to be honest, it plays quite a big part in my selection for this race. Sir Rumi's about the only one in here with decent soft ground form. If you look at the last 4 runs, 2 good seconds on heavy and then soft ground, and then one recently at Epsom on soft ground. Whether or not that's the key to this horse, I don't know, but Sir Rumi certainly will handle conditions and seems to be on a steady upward curve. Kev Stott on board, a £4 rise, I think should deal with that. And to be honest, the ground might almost offset that rise in the weights against some that won't handle it as well. So yes, Sarumi to handle the soft ground and proven so far on the conditions and over the trip.
Yeah, Sarumi for Richard Hannon, 5-1, currently second favourite. Paul, who are you going with in this one?
Yeah, I'm with Frankie here, James. Go down through the runners. You know, there's nothing there that will handle the soft ground, and nothing has handled it thus far. I know the William Haggas horse, Nathaniel Green, has won on soft ground at Haydock in July of last year, but had a look at that race yesterday evening, and the ground wasn't that soft. The ground was, I'd say, would have been on the good side. There didn't look to be much kickback and what have you. So Nathaniel Green's best form would be on better ground. So I think all things considered, going down through the fields, Saruma is the one that handles the soft grounds, and I think he'll take the beating here.
Yeah, I'm joining you, gents. Sarumi, a hat-trick to kick us off, and for the reasons you've mentioned, I think he's going to be seriously testing at Ascot, and this horse absolutely loves it when it's soft, heavy ground. I think it really is what sets him apart to what he needs, because even though he can run well on good to soft, where others don't handle it, he does, and that's where he will come into his forte. Obviously, his run last time out at Epsom showed that when back up to 1 mile 4 on soft ground. Flying Solo's not a bad horse for David Menissier. So, like you said, Frankie, the £4 he's gone up. I think he'll take that in his stride on this ground. I think if he was on good ground against horses that handle good, I think he might struggle with that £4, but I think he'll take it in his stride on the soft ground. Like you said, Kevin Stott at Ascot for the ride. Yeah, 5-1. I think Sarumi should be favourite. Personally, I don't see why Nathaniel Green is favourite, and for Sarumi to be 5-1 currently at the time of recording, I think that could be a really, really good price. And like you mentioned, Paul, there, when you go through the field, there's not many that actually do handle the ground that's going to be at Ascot. What you need to look at more so, I'd say, for people who are watching this is a lot of the ground descriptions aren't actually properly right. We've seen already this season that some go in sticks, and what some parts of the course are actually saying it is. You need to go back and watch your races, don't you, to actually get a feel for what the ground properly is. So, like you say, I went and watched that race back as well, and it wasn't as soft as they were saying it was. So, where it will be at Ascot for Nathaniel Green. So, Sarumi to kick us off for the hat trick for us all. But we're going to go over to Lingfield now for another really tough event. The first race on ITV on their Derby trial card. And it's the 150 download the At the Race app handicap over 7 furlongs. Paul, 14 runners at the moment. Who took your fancy?
Yeah, 14 runners, James. And as you mentioned at the top of the show, we don't have the draw. It's time recording. We don't have the draw as of yet. And I think the draw will be crucial here. But as things stand, the one I've gone for is Win for Glory, who was a good winner at Lingfield over the 8 furlongs last July under jockey Finley Marsh. Was second over the stiff 7 furlongs at Chelmsford when last seen, also under Finley. Now, watch that race back. He was quite keen in the early stages, had the inside draw, opted to sit behind the leaders. Finley, when they were straightened up for home, Finley just switched off the inside rail and just got checked on his run as the winner, Shades of Summer, was getting going. Shades of Summer got first run, and I thought Win for Glory just looked a bit one-paced when he came off the bridle. Now, he was quite keen for the first 3 furlongs or so. You know, he would have used up a lot of fuel in the early stages. So all things considered, Win for Glory probably did well to finish second, to hang on for second, and he did show good battling qualities in the closing stages. It's interesting for me, Richard Hughes was always keen to support his apprentices and young jockeys in the yard. Finley's had a lot of chances on Win for Glory. Hughes, he's gone for William Buick here. He's always said on the back of supporting his apprentices, he would use the best available when he's seen fit. And it's interesting, the jockey book in here, Hughes, he's gone for William Buick. And I think if we get a little bit of luck with the draw, I think Win for Glory will go close here.
Yeah, absolutely bang on, Paul. I'm with you again. Win for Glory for me for all the reasons you said. Buick was a huge factor. Not to say the jockeys aren't on board before aren't good jockeys, but Buick, he's champion jockey currently at the moment, isn't he? He's the man that everyone wants on their horses. I thought you were bang on with what you said about the run last time. I think he did well to hang on for second. I just think if you look at his first run of the season at Wolves, it's almost like he's getting back into it slightly. He might have just needed these 2 runs to properly kick on. Win for Glory is my selection. Well, look, you're right. We've got to get a bit of luck with the draw. But if you go back to his win at Lingfield as well, over that mile, I do like horses that are coming back that have won at this track, because it's not the easiest track in the world. That bends, he does scupper some horses' chances a lot of the time, and obviously that comes from the draw. But so hopefully we get a bit of luck with the draw. But Win for Glory off a mark of 77, I thought could run a really big race as well. Frankie, are you going for the hat trick again, or are you looking elsewhere?
I'm going for a different kind of hat trick. Gold medal is on the hat trick. When it's last 2 at Lingfield on the all-weather over 6 furlongs. Some of these would have been expecting, obviously, not to be on the all-weather. I think the switch probably plays into Gold Medal's favour. Finished his race really nicely last time out over 6, and I think going up to 7 should seek out a bit more improvement. He's got to deal with, I think, a £4 race, but since changing trainer, I mean, he's looked at a different horse, won easily twice, and I think back up to 7 is no negative by any means. So yeah, gold medal for the hat trick of Lingfield hat tricks.
Yeah, gold medal. Obviously got a really big chance, but it's like I said, it's a very, very tough race, isn't it? That one at Lingfield, and probably one of the toughest to pick through the day because it's not easy. Anyway, we're going to go back over to Ascot for their next event on the Saturday, and it is the Fillies handicap over a mile. Frankie, who took your eye on this?
Yeah, I'm going to go Belhaven as an each-way bet. I think she deserves a chance in the places, particularly off of that last run at Nottingham. It's interesting, really, because she was on a steady incline in terms of performances and RPRs, and then putting a stinker at Redcar on soft ground, and you might have said, oh, maybe she doesn't handle the ground, but they obviously went again on soft ground at Nottingham, and she was really impressive. So I don't think ground is the issue. These fillies can put in a bad performance here and there. And if you ignore that Redcar blip, she was on a decent incline and won really nicely last time out. Again, it's a horse that is going up in the weights and has to deal with that in another handicap, but hopefully she can continue her progress. So Belhaven each way for me.
Yeah, I think Belhaven's got a cracking each way chance at sevens. Obviously, a win last time out. And if you look at Harry Eustace, his strike rate of the last 2 weeks, 29%. So he's in flying form. Yeah, I think she's definitely got a chance to make a good case for her. A good case for her. On with Timeless Melody though, for William Haggis. Fourth on debut over mile for Charlie Appleby, having been with the Godolphin. So it's strange actually to see her in these colours because people might have thought she was good enough with Godolphin. Why didn't she stay? But I think she's actually a very good horse, and they might have just got this one wrong. She was then seen again as a juvenile, won 2nd of 10 at Kempton up to 1 mile 3, finished behind a nice horse actually for William Haggis that day. Like I said, sold to Sheikh Juma Dal Al Maktoum in the famous colours, obviously the yellow polka dots on the navy blue, well, black colours. She got off the mark on seasonal debut for the yard, winning on heavy ground at Leicester over 7 furlongs. Like we've said, she's going to get very similar conditions at Ascot, and now she's stepping into handicap company off a mark of 80. I just think because she handles the ground and she could turn out to be a very nice horse. Adam Farrager rides again, taking off £3, so effectively off a mark of 77, having ridden her last time. I just can't see where the fault lies with her. I think at 72 at the top of the mark is a very, very fair price. So Timeless Melody for me. Paul, who are you going for?
Yeah, with Timeless Melody as well, James. I think a good winner last time out. I think the ground again is going to be key. She's drawn a stall 2, and I think Connections I found a good opportunity here. Timeless Melody, first time in a handicap, and it's a fillies handicap. Connections have opted to keep her against her own sex, so she's best price 7-2. I think Timeless Melody will take the beating here.
We really are singing off the same in sheet today, Paul, aren't we?
Yeah, well, just
going to go really well or really wrong.
I'm just copying you, James. I'm trying to, yeah, they're going to be a glory or not. Like.
Right then, let's see if we're going together in the next one as well. It's the first big race of the day at Lingfield. We're going to cover it. It's the 225 Group 3 Chartwell Filly Stakes over 7 furlong. And Paul, I'll let you go first this time. So if we are the same, I'll be copying you. Who are you going for?
I've gone with Sacred, who's set an easier assignment here than that of her first start last season when she ran in the Group 1 Platinum Jubilee at Ascot. I know Sandrine beat her before. That was a good one, but she was drawn out wide, and her race was over after a furlong. She was they went a fair gallop from the inside draws, and when Tom Marquand was trying to get her settled and get her in, I don't think he expected the pace to be as strong. And all of a sudden, he went from trying to rein her back to slot her in to asking her to go forward. At which stage he had to slot in and ride for a little bit of luck. Essentially, he was pushed out wide, and she was never really going to get there, but she might have finished a little bit closer with a kind of draw. She is a little bit tricky. She can race keen. She likes to be dropped in. She only has the 4 victories from 13 starts. She had no real excuse, I thought, last time out when she finished second behind Pogo in a Group 2 over 7 furlongs at Newmarket back in October. I think this is probably her level. I think this is an easier assignment. So it's a tentative selection, but I've gone with Sacred. What have you gone with, James?
We really are copying each other because I've gone for Sacred as well in this one. For all the reason you've said, she was a really, really smart 2-year-old, wasn't she? Second in the Group 2 Queen Mary Stakes. I think she was also runner-up in the Group 2 Lowther Stakes at York. And I think what she's done throughout her career, I think you're right. She's always been on the premise of being really, really good, but she's probably actually just a Group 3 listed horse, isn't she? Especially now as a 5-year-old. I do think this is an easier contest than some she ran in last season. Like you said, when she was finished second behind Pogo in the Group 2 Challenge Stakes last season. Pogo and her had a bit of a battle all season. And obviously Pogo over that mile, 7 furlong, sorry, he's absolutely brilliant. So yes, she is quirky. Yes, she can put in bad runs and she doesn't win all the time, but I've got a huge amount of time for her. I think she's a very, very good horse. And like you mentioned, Paul, I think this is a much easier race for her to go and win on seasonal debut. So Ryan Moore takes the ride, been in flying 4 round Chester this week. So Sacred for me as well. I think she can run a really, really good race here. Frankie, who are you going for in the Group 3 Chartwell Stakes?
Going with the other classy filly, Sandrine. I was nearly drawn in by Queen Amanatu. To be honest, I'd be interested to see what the prices are when they come out. Because Queen Amanatu put in a good run on the all-weather before disappointing over in Ireland. But that's not to say back on English shores and back on the all-weather, couldn't run a decent race. So I'd be interested to see some prices and the draws, of course. But when you're just looking at it, as we are this morning on Friday, Sacred and Sandrine are the class acts in the field, really. It's hard to weigh up who will be fit. But I give Sandrine the nod just off the back of, I mean, last season she only raced in Group 1 or Group 2 company. She is a class filly, as is Sacred. So flip-flop between the two, really. But Sandrine with a hungry Asheen Murphy on board as well, who's equally been riding well at Chester this week.
Yeah, it's like we've mentioned at the top of the show, it's a really tough one from Lingfield. The more advisories, aren't they, then probably tips this week, because we don't know so much about the draw, what the prices are. It's just we're going off the bare face of the form of what we see. But yeah, Sandrine's another one. Obviously, like you said, she's the class act in the field with Sacred. So it's a fascinating race, because if Queen Amanatu runs, Haggis will run too, and obviously she's shown serious bursts of pace on the all-weather this season. So yeah, it could be a cracking race. Right then, Ascot's final event on ITV on Saturday is their feature race, the Victoria Cup, over 7 furlongs. And every season, Frankie, this is a very, very tricky punting race, but it offers a lot of value with a lot of bookies going extra places. And at the top of the market, we've got George Bowie with Baradar, 7-1. George Bowie again, totally charming, backed in from 12s into 8s. So he's got the top 2 in the market. Fresh, 17-2. Kingdom Come 9-1. 10-1 Baffatino, last year's winner. Biggles 14-1 and 14-1, and bigger the rest. Frankie, we'll let you start. Who are you going for?
I think George Bowie wins it. Which one with? Who knows? No, I like Totally Charming. I do like Totally Charming, especially off the back of that form. Doncaster over 7 on heavy ground, and Billy Loughnane booked his a great £3 to claim. So Totally Charming off effectively a mark of 98 after what she has shown at Doncaster and previously. She won a big handicap at Epsom last year. I do really like the look of Totally Charming for this race. My only concern is, has George Bowie got another race in mind, a bigger pot? I wonder if this horse could win a slightly bigger pot handicap at one of the bigger meetings. But maybe that's me thinking greedy, and he'd be happy with a 50 grand pot, I'm sure. So Totally Charming, he throws 2 darts. You'd think one of them will win.
Yeah, I think you're not far away with what you're saying there. Definitely, Paul. Who are you going for?
I've gone with Biggles again. Tipped him up last time. A big fan of the sponsor, James. But I think if Biggles wins this now, we could be cracking open a bottle of Peroni, but might just struggle to see the Derby trial at 335. But yeah, Biggles best price 14-1. Won a competitive handicap on soft ground at Newbury last season. Then was second on heavy ground at Doncaster back in November. Was third in that Class 2 handicap. That was on good ground at Haydock on seasonal reappearance. A race I'd say he was fairly straight for. He won't. He's won first time out in the past on seasonal reappearance, so I don't think he's going to strip a lot fitter for this, but I do think the ground is going to play to his strengths, and yeah, tipped him up last time out, so I'm going to stick with Biggles.
Yeah, Biggles currently 14-1. It's tough for me, this race, because I'm very conflicted, because I don't really like jumping off horses, but there's that many horses in this field that I've had before that I'm going to have to jump off some of them. Biggles, obviously, I tipped up with you, Paul, when he was third last time out. I'm not on him this weekend. Baradar at the top of the market. I put it for the Lincoln when he was third. I'm not with him either. So it could be a very tricky one. I've actually joined you, Frankie. I've got 2 selections in this, but one of the first is Totally Charming. Totally Charming was 12s when I looked at doing this yesterday. I've obviously been backed into 8s at the time of recording. I couldn't believe his price. I thought he should be like bang around where he probably is now. But he's a horse that handles heavy ground. We know that, but he's also very versatile, that he can handle good ground as well. We're going to get tricky conditions, but you need that. Baradar's another one that loves heavy ground, so he's going to be in amongst it. But I think if you look at who won the race last year, Baffatino, where they were drawn, it was normally high. So I think you want to look at horses that are higher in the draw. Personally, off the back of what we saw last year, it might be different this year, but that's what I'm going with. Like I said, he landed back-to-back races at the start of last term at Lingfield and Epsom, winning on the Epsom Derby meeting for mark of 91. He then went to Royal Ascot, a £5 higher, ran into 9th of 29 in the Royal Cup, which wasn't a bad run because we know how difficult that race is. Sent into the Cambridgeshire Stakes at Newmarket, ran no race at all. Not sure was up that day, but I can put that down to a blip. Came back for his final run this season at Doncaster on that heavy ground, landed a Class 3 handicap over 7 furlongs by 2 lengths. Racing off a marker 104 for his seasonal return this season at the Curragh. He was actually favourite, but drifted out to 5-1 in that race at the Curragh with the Irish Lincolnshire. And he's been dropped £3 out for that to a marker 101. Like you said, Billy Loughnane takes over, which is another £3 off. So effectively racing off what, a marker 98. I think he's got to have a massive chance handling the ground. So Totally Charming, 8-1's got a big chance. And just another odd chuck in around a similar price at 9-1 currently is Kingdom Come for Clive Cox. There's a massive thing with this horse that we don't know whether he will handle the soft heavy ground. So you've got to take that if you're having this selection. But he could just be a massive class angle. If you look how much he was bought for, this horse, costing 340,000 guineas as a foal and 500,000 as a 2-year-old. He's shown a lot of potential since being gelded. His first 2 runs as a juvenile didn't happen. Obviously, he had a gelding operation. He landed a hat-trick since. Sent to Kempton for his 3-year-old debut, got off the mark in good style and novice stakes over 7. Next time out over the same course and distance, he made it back-to-back wins off a handicap mark of 80. He was given £15 for that. And still went on to win next time out. He's off a marker 102 here, looking for the 4-timer. Like you said, we've got to see if he handles soft ground. But I just thought he was a fascinating runner for how much he costs. So Kingdom Come at 9s, but Totally Charming, probably the better selection at 8s for me. Right then, we're moving back over to Lingfield, and it's the first of the trials. It's the Listed Oaks Fillies trial. And Paul, it looks a cracker, really. Obviously, like we said, we don't know what the juries, we do have prices actually for this one. Currently, probably for an anti-post, we've got Be Happy at the top of the market, 7-2. Sia Rose, who's 5-1. Bright Diamond, 8-1. Eternal Hope, 8-1. Inner Space, 14-1. 14-1. Bigger the rest. Look, we're trying to find out who's going to really go close in the Oaks. It doesn't always happen from these sorts of races at Lingfield, but especially for the Derby one, we have seen horses come out and even win and run well. Do you think the winner of the Oaks is in this field?
Well, I quite like Sia Roses, who the Bowland team, they're in good form and whose horses generally do get better with each run. She's yet to finish out with the first 2. Second on first start, was a good winner then at the second time of asking, and then was second on seasonal reappearance. And I do think I'd love to see Andrew Balding get an Oaks winner here. I think she's pretty decent now. Obviously the price reflects that. She's best price 5-1, second choice in the betting. As I said, she's 1 win from 3 starts, won a Fillies maiden on her second attempt, where the second Infinite Cosmos from the Sir Michael Stout Yard went and won a Fillies maiden at Newmarket on her seasonal reappearance at the second time of asking. That was earlier this month, so that boosts the form. And Sia Roses finished second in a Group 3 at St. Cloud at the beginning of April when she was last seen. So that was no mean feat there. She's a filly obviously held in high regard. I think the drop to listed class here in theory should make life easier. And yeah, best price 5-1, I think, represents a bit of value for Sia Roses.
Yeah, Sia Roses is currently 5-1 at the time of recording. Like you say, Andrew Balding has absolutely smashed it up on the Rudy this week so far. So he heads into Lingfield in very good form. Frankie, who are you going for?
Yep, I agree. Sia Roses for the same reasons, really. If there was to add anything, that the good second on debut was to Arrest, who won nicely at Chester, and then the second last time out was beating the current market leader. So good bits of form in there, and as Paul said, I agree. Probably overpriced. I wouldn't argue if Sia Roses was favourite here. So 5-1, I think, fair price, and yeah, Andrew Baldwin in great form. It'd be good to see a nice winner.
It's another hat trick of selections. Sia Roses for me as well. For all the reasons you mentioned, like you said, I'm a huge fan of Arrest. I thought that was really good form on debut. If you look who actually finished third, Deceiver, he came out and won at Kempton on his third start. So the form's there is really, really strong. Infinite Cosmos, who she beat next time out. I think Infinite Cosmos, I think Sir Michael Stout thinks a hell of a lot of this horse. So to go and beat her was a serious performance. Obviously stepped up to 1 mile 2.5 over in France in that Group 3. It was on soft ground. If you look at how the winner, she got away really on the far side rail. and it wasn't for clawing back. But I thought Sia Rosie stayed on really well. For me, I can't understand why Be Happy, maybe just because the Aidan Bryan effect and the silks on the back of Be Happy.
So.
But I would have Sia Roses ahead of Be Happy all day long. You watch that race back. Look, they might have been nursing Be Happy to be at her best for the Oaks, and that wasn't the be-all and end-all in France. But for me, visually, Sia Roses was staying on, whereas Be Happy wasn't staying as well as her. I think if you look through Sia Rose's pedigree as well, the 1 mile forward would be absolutely no problem. I think she's quite big value at 5-1, and I'm glad you boys have both seen it as well, because it strengthens your mind, doesn't it, when someone else sees what you're seeing? So Sia Roses for Andrew Baldwin. Ocean Murphy again's in flying form, and he takes the ride. So hopefully she can go and land the Oaks trial. Right then, a bit of jumps action. We know we all love the jumps, and it's the sole race from Haydock on ITV with the Swinton Handicap Hurdle, Grade 3 over 2 miles. And this race this year sees a whole host of completely different horses from age ranges, and it's actually great to see for me, because I actually do really like this race. We've got Biker at the top of the market, who was second in the Boodles, a 4-year-old in the race for Charles Burns. Brentford Hope, once very good on the flat, now for Harry Durham over jumps, 5-1 as well at the top of the market. Teddy Blue for Gary Moore, 8-1. Paramount, 10-1. 12-1 Luna Sovereign, and 14-1 Bigger the Rest. Frankie, we'll let you start in this. It's a fascinating race, really, but very, very tricky.
It is, yeah. Charles Burns been in the news for less positive news, but you take your opinion here. Is he coming over to England to have a trot round and get that English handicappers head thinking, or I think he's coming off the back of a good second in the Boodles, only £4 up, and can pick up some good prize money. The Boodles is always a good race. There's always a couple in there that are definitely above or beyond their mark going into the Boodles, and I think to come out of the Boodles a second, only £4 higher, gives you every chance in a race like this. So yeah, I'm sticking with Biker.
Yeah, so am I. I tipped up Biker at Cheltenham, and I thought he'd done enough. He ran an absolute cracker. That race, I think it's at Naas or Navan, that the horses have ran him before they've gone into the Boodles. He's absolutely electric form. 4 of the last 5 winners have gone into that. Obviously, he was third. James Mackie also came from that race to win that. It's amazing, really. But like you said, the run at Cheltenham was what it was all about. The marker 128. James Mackie was effectively getting £4. If you look at Michael O'Sullivan's 3, and how he was in the weights anyway that day. I think 132 is absolutely no problem. We saw how he raced. The only thing I worry about is a 4-year-old going back into a big hustle with more experienced horses. And obviously 5-1 at the top of the market is short, but he's 5-1 for a reason, because he's got all the ability in the world. He was a nice horse on the flat for Richard Hannam, rated 70. So what Charles Burns has done, I know a lot of the Irish media, Paul, you can answer this more, think he's an absolutely massive genius with what he does with horsing. I know he's very shrewd, but he probably gets a lot more flack over in England, because all we see is the headlines about what's happening. It was dreadful what happened the day. But anyway, I hope none of that happens with Biker, and I hope he goes and wins at 5-1, because I think, he's forming. He's the one to go off.
It's a good point. He certainly won't get a quiet ride now, will he?
No, he won't. He definitely won't.
No, absolutely not.
So he'll be trying.
Exactly. But and like you said, I think it's really the end of the jump season. I don't know why they'd be trying to get a handicap mark, why they would run it poorly. I think this goes and wins. It's quite a nice pot, actually, this race at Haydock. So hopefully they run it properly and Biker goes and wins. But Paul, just for your selection, what is your thoughts on that stuff that happened with Charles Burns in the week?
I didn't read a whole pile into it. Was busy kind of elsewhere, but I suppose like with the non-triers or what have you, if you're using the race course as conditioning in public, it's a tough one. Obviously it's frowned upon in the grand scheme of things. On the flip side of that, the system encourages it. And it's more at this level handicap, but it's more on your Monday to Friday horses that it affects. Because your good horses, your Saturday horses, you want to test them and you want to see how good they are. But the system, if you have a syndicate of owners, like, you don't get into racing to make money. You don't get into ownership to make money, because you're just losing. That's all. You're just throwing away money. Essentially, if you buy a horse and you're putting in training fees, you say good luck to that money, because it's gone. And you're very lucky if the horse wins a couple, because that's just the way it is. But the system encourages you. If you have a Monday to Friday horse, the system encourages you to give them those 3 quiet runs. If you finish second in a maiden hurdle to a horse that goes on and win at Cheltenham, the handicapper, you'll be handicapped off that run for the rest of the horse's life. And essentially, you'll never, the horse might never win a race. Like I rode a horse that was second to Minora in a bumper, but I think it was at Naas. But like the horse that was second, essentially never won a race. But the handicapper gave him no reprieve, gave him absolutely no leave whatsoever. So, and the owners just hemorrhaging money into that horse for training fees, vets, bills, and all that goes with it. And the horse never won a race. So the system's there to, I think, encourage that. I don't approve of it, but like, yeah, if you see a maiden hurdle in Ireland with 30 runners, it's I suppose it's the old cliche, triers at the front, non-triers at the back, and what have you. But essentially, as I said, it's the system that encourages that. If you're on a mediocre horse and you finish within, say, 5 lengths of a Willie Mullins horse that then wins his next 4 or 5, including one at Cheltenham, Aintree, Punchestown, or what have you, your own horse, while not at that level, but will run off that good run for the rest of its life. So, I think the system needs looking at.
No, I agree with what you're saying, and the problem is it is there to be exploited, isn't it? Because that's what owners, trainers that obviously want their horses to win, and to do that they have to. It's not right, but it's how it is in the moment. Anyway, Biker for me and Frankie, but who are you signing with, Paul? I
like Brentford Hope for Harry Durham, chasing the hat-trick. And I think, am I right in saying go for the bonus as well, if he collects here?
Yeah.
But I think 5-1 best price in such an open handicap. I've gone elsewhere and I've gone at an angle. Theo Gillard rode Fruit and Nut 3 of his last 6 runs, with B. Hughes on board for the other 3. Theo was on board his last 2 runs. He was a good winner 2 starts back, and then was quite disappointing at Aintree, where he hung for most of the journey. Theo came in and reported that to the clerk of the scales and the stewards. I think it's interesting that Donald is opted now to go for the champion jockey and stable jockey. If he didn't think Fruit and Nut was up to the job here, I thought he might have freed Brian Hughes up to possibly ride the Nicky Richards horse, who's a little bit shorter in the market. So from that angle, yes, Fruit and Nut will need to improve, but there's a bit of each way value to be had here. If you shop around with many firms, some are paying 5. I think there could be one paying 6, but Fruit and Nut's best price of 25-1 has a nice weight of 10 stone 7. Champion jockey on board and Brian Hughes. And with Fruit and Nut on a redemption mission to sneak a place here at about 25-1.
Yeah, big price, 25-1. And you do like the jockey angle. Obviously, being an ex-jockey, you have looked at that one, and it has worked out, and he's interesting, really, because I think with certain people, when they're doing tips, they might not look at the angle so much, but obviously you being in their shoes, you know how much of maybe a change that will be, or how trainers are thinking. So at 25-1, worth having a look at. Right, we're going to finish this week's pod with the final event on Saturday's ITV card. It's the big one from Lingfield. It's their listed Derby trial over 1 mile 4. And we have no odds currently. Like we said, we've got no draw, but it could be a fascinating field with the likes of Bertinelli in there for Aidan O'Brien, Military Order for William Buick and Charlie Appleby. And Wapiro drops in as well, having not raced last time, obviously, what happened with Tom Marquand. But Frankie, I'll let you start here. Who are you going for in the Derby trial?
Going with Bertinelli, who you mentioned. Some people might see Bertinelli was second to Older last time out at Cork, and Older got beat at Chester this week, which some people might see as a knock to the form, but I don't think it was. I think San Antonio around Chester just got a great ride by Ryan Moore. He got a good position, he kicked, and Older takes a little bit of time to get going and just couldn't quite get there, hanging a little bit as well towards the finish. So I think Older ran a great race at Chester. Bertinelli to come second to Older previously, I think, is good form. And as we've seen with nearly all of Aidan O'Brien's horses that have come to Chester, and I've got a bit of a recency bias here being here, but lots of them have improved bundles from their last run. You know, some have come out and one that finished second or third last time out. All of his horses are firing this weekend, and not all of them are coming off the back of a win last time. So I think Bertinelli being a close second to Older last time is a big positive, the way Older ran, and will improve again. So yeah, Bertinelli gets the nod for the O'Brien team.
Yeah, very interesting. Like you say, Older ran really, really well. Had real big trouble in the running, and still managed to finish his race really well. Aidan O'Brien's flying. So Bertinelli's a good selection. Paul, who are you going for?
I am all over Circle of Fire, who holds a stack of big race entries. He won a novice stakes event on a second start at Salisbury over the mile. There's only a second start. He showed signs of greenness, which he was entitled to. He was on and off the bridle, but the further they went, the better he went. And in the end, it was quite a taken performance. He was then second in a listed race won by Castleway at Newmarket earlier this month. That was over 1.2 miles. He was a little bit keen, and he got a little bit hot in the early stages, sweated up just down the neck. But he was a little keen. Again, he came off the bridle. You know, he was on and off when the race, you know, when push came to shove, he was like, geez, what do I do here, lads? But again, when as the race went, you think kind of approaching the furlong pole, he might even get swallowed up. He'd be lucky to hold on for second, but as they hit the line, he was getting going again. And the third and fourth, they were never passing him, having looked like they were going to pass him a furlong earlier. As I said, he doesn't have a huge turn of foot, but he does have a big relentless stride. I think the 1.4 miles will suit, and I think if he handles the all-weather at Lingfield, I think Circle of Fire will take the beating here.
We've honestly been agreeing in most of these podcasts, and we're both very bullish on different horses now to finish, because I really, really like Military Order. I really, really do. Seen 3 times today. It's a full brother to Adiyar. Adiyar finished second in this event before going on to win the Derby. So obviously it was on different ground. It was at Lingfield on very soft ground, but I really do think the Military Order can be a very, very nice horse. 4th of 10 on debut at Newmarket, learning plenty for the experience. Stepped up to 1 mile for his second event as a juvenile, and he got off the mark. He beat another one of his stablemates, H&M Rules, that day by just under a length. Stepped up again in trip for his seasonal debut this term, over 1 mile, 2 furlongs at Newbury. He looked a class apart. He absolutely bolted up by 4 lengths under a penalty. He goes up to 1 mile 4. We know his pedigree suggests he'll get the 1 mile 4, being a full brother to Adiyar. I think he can lay a huge marker down for Epsom. I think he'll take the world of beating in this Military Order, so he'll be my selection. Hopefully he gets a decent enough draw, but over the 1 mile 4, he should be able to be okay. And hopefully he'll handle Lingfield. Right then, chaps, that is all of the races from Ascot, Lingfield and Haydock covered on Saturday. All we need to do now is get our naps. And Frankie, we'll start with you this week. Who do you want to go for your nap?
I'm hoping somebody goes with Sea Roses, because we're all quite keen there, but I'm gonna go with Totally Charming. The pair, I think, are overpriced. Billy Lochnan on board, taking 3 off. George Boyd a strike. The 240, Totally Charming.
Yeah, Totally Charming. I like that as well. 8-1 currently. Paul, for you?
I thought naps were hard to come by this week. Win or lose, in the last number of weeks, I've been quite strong on my naps. I know more have lost than won, but I've had good reason. So this week I'm a little bit on the fence with naps. It hasn't been easy. Sea Roses, we were all quite sweet on her chances. Circle of Fire, I like a lot in that Derby trial at Lingfield. But like we said at the start of the show, I think the ground is going to be key at Ascot. I think those who handle the ground or with proven form and testing conditions will be to the fore. And for that reason, I've gone, my nap this week is Timeless Melody in the 205, the Fillies handicap at Ascot.
Yeah, lovely stuff. 7-2. But I made a good case. So I think got an absolutely cracking chance. Oh, it's tough because no one else went Sea Roses. But we don't know the draw and stuff yet. We're still waiting for a bit. And even though I think he's overpriced at 5s, I am going to go for something else at the same price. I know. Sea Roses is going to win now. We've all gone for, but it's another horse we all went for, and it's Sarumi at 5-1. I just think, like we said, I don't think any other horse will handle the soft, heavy ground as well as he will. The £4 rise is absolutely no problem. So I think he'll take the world of beating in that opener at Ascot. But we can have a joint nap of Sea of Roses.
Sea of Roses.
Well,
we've got the 3 ITV races at Ascot between us there. So
exactly. And if
any
we
luck?
put Sea of Roses in, we can have a lucky 15 between the
There you are.
four selections. So there you go. Gents, thanks as always for your selections this week. Very tricky, really, obviously with the ground, with the change into the all-weather and a bit of jumps chucked in. But hopefully we found some winners. We haven't been doing too bad. Obviously, Paul with Chaldine and Frankie last week, obviously. And I think I put up Morge, didn't I, for the 1,000 of the 1-2. So we haven't been doing too bad at all. But please be sure to like this video, comment your selections for the weekend or your nap across the weekend. We've somehow got 4 and there's only 3 of us. So hopefully you can have one as well. And be sure to subscribe to Wiz and Closer channel with plenty of content to go through. All the best, whatever you're back in this weekend. And thanks for watching.